My father-in-law installed cameras in our bedroom for safety. When I confronted him, he smiled. I just need to make sure my son is happy. My husband shrugged. It's not a big deal. That night, I packed my bags. The next morning, they woke up to a house completely empty. James and I got married a year ago. We were still saving up for a place of our own when his dad, Richard, offered to let us live in his house. You'll save money, he said. No need to rush into a mortgage. I wasn't thrilled about it. Richard had always been a little too involved in James's life. He would show up unannounced when we were dating, call multiple times a day, make comments about how James used to be so happy before he met me. But James always brushed it off. That's just how he is, he'd say. I let it go. We moved in. And from day one, Richard made sure I knew whose house it was. It started small. He'd walk into our bedroom without knocking. He'd, accidentally, walk in on me changing, acting all flustered like, oops, didn't realize you were in here. He made weird comments. Weird. A strong marriage needs consistency. A man should never go to bed frustrated. Women these days don't understand how to take care of their husbands. I told James it was making me uncomfortable. He rolled his eyes and said, he's just old-fashioned. Then came the rules. No locked doors. I should know where you are at all times. Dinner is at 6. No exceptions. If I broke one, passive-aggressive guilt trips. This is my house. I just asked for one thing. It was suffocating. But James acted like I was crazy for feeling that way. I should have left then. The night I found them, I had come home early from work. James and Richard were out, so I had the house to myself. I went to our bedroom to change, and as I was taking off my sweater, something caught my eye. A small blinking red light on the smoke detector above our bed. I froze. My brain tried to come up with a reasonable explanation. Maybe it was a faulty alarm? Maybe the battery was dying? But something fell off. I grabbed a chair, climbed up, and unscrewed the cover. Inside, there was a camera. I nearly dropped it. My hands were shaking. My stomach twisted into knots. I tore through the room, searching. I found 2 more. One tucked behind the TV. One inside the bathroom vent. That's when I realized someone had been watching us. And I knew exactly who it was. I didn't wait. The second James and Richard walked through the door, I was in the kitchen, camera in hand. I slammed it onto the table. What the hell is this? Richard barely glanced at it. Then, he smiled. I just need to make sure my son is happy. My body went cold. My vision blurred. What did you just say? I asked, my voice shaking. Richard sighed, like I was some dramatic child throwing a tantrum. I had to be sure you weren't making him miserable. Miserable? You mean to tell me you've been spying on us? In our bedroom. He didn't even flinch. I wouldn't call it spying. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. And James? Did you know? James looked away. That was all I needed to see. I turned to James, hoping, praying that he'd be just as horrified as I was. That he'd grab the cameras, throw them in Richard's face, and tell him to get the hell out of our lives. Instead, he shrugged. He shrugged. I mean, it's his house, he said. If it makes him comfortable, I didn't even let him finish. Comfortable? James, your father has been watching us. In our bedroom. He sighed, rubbing his temples. You're overreacting. I swear to God, something inside me snapped. I had spent months trying to be the perfect wife. Trying to ignore Richard's controlling behavior. Trying to justify James's indifference. And for what? For this? I was done. I didn't say another word. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just nodded. Then, I started planning. That night, I packed my bags. But I didn't just pack for myself. I took everything. Everything that belonged to me. Everything I had bought. Everything I legally owned. I called my best friend and told her I needed a place to stay. Then, I made a few more calls. The next morning, they woke up to a house completely empty. And I wasn't done yet. I stood outside, watching the house one last time. It was quiet. Too quiet. James and Richard were still asleep inside, clueless. They had no idea that the life they knew was about to implode. I climbed into my friend's car and didn't look back. But I wasn't done yet. This wasn't just about leaving. It was about revenge. James woke up to nothing. No furniture, no clothes, no electronics. Even the bed was gone. I ignored his calls. The first few were angry. Where the hell are you? Why are all your things gone? Come back and stop being crazy. Then, the guilt tripping started. You're overreacting. It wasn't a big deal. We could have talked about this. I didn't respond. Then Richard called. I didn't pick up. And that's when the real chaos began. James thought he still had our savings. He didn't. The money was in my name. Every paycheck, every deposit, all in an account only I had access to. James called again. 56 times. By noon, my inbox was flooded with texts. James, what the F asterisk did you do? James, where's our money? James, you can't just take everything. James, are you serious right now? Yes, I was serious. I still wasn't done. I went straight to the police. I showed them everything. The cameras, the footage, the receipts. They took it very seriously. A detective got involved. A warrant was issued. I thought James and Richard would panic. They didn't. Instead, they fought back. 2 days later, I got served with legal papers. James was suing me. He wanted his share of the savings, the house, the car. Richard backed him up, claiming I was emotionally unstable and had stolen from James. I almost left. They had no idea what was coming. Because while they were trying to take me down, I was already 3 steps ahead. It happened faster than I expected. The cops raided the house. Richard was arrested for illegal surveillance and invasion of privacy. James? He just stood there, watching his father get dragged away. Then, he turned on me. He started begging. He showed up at my friend's house, crying. Please, we can fix this, he said. It's all a misunderstanding. I stared at him. You knew. He wiped his face. It's not like that. You're making it worse than it is. I stepped closer. Your father has been watching us. He put cameras in our bedroom. And you just let it happen. He swallowed hard. I thought he was just looking out for me. Looking out for him? I felt sick. I turned and walked away. He was dead to me. But then, he played his final card. I got a call from the detective. Something's not right, he said. We got some of the footage from the cameras, but some files are missing. My stomach dropped. Missing? Deleted, he said. And not just any files. Only the ones from the bedroom. I felt my breath hitch. Someone wiped them, he continued. But we're working on recovering them. I already knew who had done it. James. He was protecting his father. And suddenly, I had a terrifying thought. What if those cameras weren't just for spying? James wasn't done. I should have known. After Richard's arrest, I thought things were finally falling into place. The police had evidence. I was free. I was ready to move on. Then the detective called. And everything turned upside down. Detective Harper was the one handling Richard's case. He had been thorough. So when he called me and said, something doesn't add up, I knew I wasn't going to like what came next. We recovered partial footage, he said. Enough to prove illegal surveillance. But the files that were erased? Those weren't just random. I gripped my phone. What do you mean? They were only from one camera. The one in the bedroom, he said. And it wasn't Richard who erased them. I felt my stomach drop. What? Based on the timestamps, the footage was wiped at 4:12 a.m. The night before you left. I did the math. Richard was asleep. James wasn't. My brain refused to believe it at first. James was a coward. A liar. A manipulative, weak-willed little boy who never stood up to his father. But was he something worse? The only reason to delete that footage was if there was something on it that could be used against him. Or something that could be used against me. I spent the next 3 days barely sleeping, replaying every memory, every moment in that house. What did James do at night when I was asleep? What had I done that he didn't want the police to see? The worst part? I couldn't remember. But I knew one thing, James wasn't panicking because of Richard's arrest. He was panicking because he knew what was coming next. The tech team recovered one file. Just one. A single 1-minute clip. I met with Detective Harper at the station. He set up a laptop and hit play. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. It was our bedroom. Night vision mode. The timestamp read 3:47 a.m. I was asleep. James was awake. Standing over me. Just standing there. Watching. He didn't move. Didn't touch me. Didn't say anything. Just stared. For several minutes. Then, he stepped out of frame. A few seconds later, the screen cut to black. That was the last file before everything was erased. I grabbed the table to steady myself. My skin felt like it was crawling. I looked at Detective Harper. What the hell was he doing? Harper exhaled. That's what we need to find out. I went straight to my lawyer and filed a restraining order. James didn't take it well. At first, he blew up my phone. We need to talk. It's not what you think. I didn't do anything wrong. I blocked him. Then, he started showing up. At my friend's house. At my work. Waiting in his car outside. Watching me. Then, one day he was gone. His bank accounts? Drained. His job? Quit. His car? Left at his dad's house. James vanished. A week later, I got another call from Detective Harper. We found something, he said. Richard's finances. Turns out, he had multiple offshore accounts. I frowned. Okay. The weird part? 2 of them were in James's name. I froze. Harper continued. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Money that Richard shouldn't have had. Money that we don't know where it came from. I gripped the phone. What are you saying? I whispered. There was a pause. Then, I don't think your father-in-law was the mastermind here, Harper said. I think it was James. Suddenly, it all made sense. Richard was controlling, but he was sloppy. James was quiet. Careful. A planner. What if the cameras were never about Richard watching me? What if they were about James controlling me? What if I was never supposed to find them? What if he wanted to catch me doing something? And what if he already had? My blood ran cold. Because suddenly, I knew. This wasn't over. James wasn't hiding. He was waiting. James was not the man I thought he was. For so long, I had blamed Richard, the creepy, controlling father-in-law with no boundaries. But the more the police uncovered, the more I realized Richard was just a distraction. The real danger was James. And now he was gone. Hiding. Waiting. I knew this wasn't over. It happened late at night, 2 weeks after James disappeared. I was in my new apartment. Small, quiet, safe. I hadn't heard from him in days. Then, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something told me I needed to. I picked up. Hello? Silence. Then, a deep breath. It was never about my dad, James said. My heart stopped. I sat up, gripping the phone so tight my fingers ached. Where are you? I demanded. He ignored the question. You were supposed to stay. What? You were supposed to fail. I felt my stomach drop. Fail at what? There was another long pause. Then, in a voice that was flat and motionless, he said, I needed proof. My hands shook. Proof of what? That you weren't loyal. I couldn't speak. James sighed like I was too slow to understand. You were never supposed to find the cameras. I was supposed to catch you cheating. My entire body went cold. James kept talking, his voice eerily calm. My dad's the perfect scapegoat, right? The creepy old man. The guy who can't mind his business. You blamed him immediately. He laughed. That's why it worked. You set me up, I whispered. I had to be sure. I thought back to every argument about Richard, every time James had dismissed my concerns. He had been letting me believe it was all Richard while setting me up the whole time. What if I hadn't found the cameras? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. There was a pause. Then, James chuckled. Then, I would have had what I needed. My stomach churned. The cameras weren't just about watching me. They were bait. James wanted footage of me with another man. Proof that I was unfaithful. Leverage. But I hadn't cheated. So why erase the footage? Why delete it? I asked. If I didn't do anything wrong? James sighed. You didn't. Something in his voice shifted. You were good, he admitted. Too good. That's why I had to start pushing you. Making you doubt yourself. Making you miserable. I clutched my stomach. He wanted me to break. He wanted me to feel so unloved, so unappreciated, that I would turn to someone else. And if I had? He would have caught it on camera. The money, the lawsuit, the manipulation. It was all planned. James was still talking, but I wasn't listening anymore. Because suddenly I knew where he was. And I wasn't running anymore. I called Detective Harper. We need to find him, I said. Turns out, James wasn't as smart as he thought. While he had drained his personal accounts, he was still pulling money from one of the hidden accounts tied to his father. The police had been tracking it. And they knew exactly where he was. James had checked into a hotel downtown. I told Harper I wanted to be there when they confronted him. He hesitated, but eventually agreed, as long as I stayed behind the officers. I agreed, but I had no intention of staying quiet. James was in the hotel lounge when we arrived. He was sipping a drink like he didn't have a warrant out for his arrest. When he saw me, he actually smiled. There you are, he said. Took you long enough. 2 officers stepped forward. James Carter, you're under arrest for fraud, illegal surveillance, and James laughed. The officers grabbed him. He didn't fight. He didn't struggle. Instead, he looked straight at me and said, You think you won? His voice was calm. You'll never be free of me. Then, the officers dragged him away. James didn't get away this time. His offshore accounts? Frozen. The lawsuit against me? Dropped. The missing footage? The police were still recovering files, but it didn't matter. The case against him was already strong enough. As for Richard? He tried to fight the charges, but with so much evidence, he had no choice but to take a plea deal. They were both out of my life. But their words? That last sentence James said? It stuck with me. I wish I could say I never think about him. That I never wonder what would have happened if I had stayed. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up thinking someone is watching me. Even though I know the cameras are gone. Even though I know he's behind bars. I still check. Because deep down, I know men like him don't stop. They wait. And one day, when I least expect it, James might come back. But next time, I'll be ready.